Hello and welcome to another Read With Me session. I'm yours truly, Isabel Bedell, and I am one of the founders here at Billionairette. If it is your first time in the Billionairette channel, congratulations. I'm so happy for you to be here, investing time into your personal and financial freedom. That is what we do on this channel. We provide the tools, the education, the resources for you to expand your mind and your freedom. That is the number one goal here, is to live free, be financially, be personally free from any restrictions, because we are all limitless. And we believe that 1,000,000,000%. So I love the book that we're actually reading right now. It's called Limitless by Jim Kwik. And it's truly one of those books that is easy to read. It's one of the books that you definitely want to read at least once in your life. And it's one of those books that is very relatable to a lot of people, especially if you've ever been to the traditional education system. If you've been to public school, if you've grew up with a group of people where you guys attended the same type of school, you notice a couple different things. One, if it's a public school, it's traditionally not equipped with the best tools and resources for you to really take your learning experience to the next level. Jim was actually very quick to understand that in school, they actually don't even teach you how to learn. They just teach you this basics. Here's Spanish, here's math, here's English, here's history. Learn that, it's in a book, get it done. That's what pretty much he's saying here. And he was telling his story, which was, pretty incredible. When he was younger, he actually fell off, hit his head into a radiator at school, and then he was put into the hospital, and because he lost so much blood from his brain when he was a little kid, his learning disability really heightened. So it took him a really long time to learn the basics. So he had to work 3, 5, 10 times more than your average person to get the same, even below average results, which, if you are in that position, it can be very gruesome, right? He also went into, in the first chapter that we actually just went over, and I'll put a link on that video above, he also talked about how when he was doing that gruesome work into personal development and learning so much, this happened. And I'm going to share with you a picture. He literally got hospitalized again because he was exhausted. He was not eating, he was not sleeping, he was not drinking enough water to stay hydrated while he was trying to learn. It was a really, really big thing in his life. Imagine yourself not being able to have the strength to, let's say you wanted to become a bodybuilder, but you couldn't lift weights or you couldn't gain muscle, right? In his life, what he couldn't gain was actual learning. He couldn't really retain information because of that incident when he was younger. So as he progressed to become older and wiser, and he really dove into learning about what he liked to learn, then he realized, oh shoot, I want to learn about the ways that his ancestors and people from the caveman era were able to translate information to one another before the printing press and before there was ever a computer involved. How did they retain information? I want to learn from them. How does physics work? How do things in the world function with one another? That's where things got interesting for him. And through doing so, he was able to build a career around that, helping people learn faster, read faster, retain information faster, really understand the mechanics of the brain and how it can actually be a huge asset once you tap into it. And he was sharing a whole like awesome story about how he was actually invited to the X-Men set, and he was able to be part of the whole X-Men experience with Wolverine and the whole crew. And they were able to go to like Professor X's school and really go through that whole thing. So I definitely encourage you to check out the first chapter of this book that we went over. It was really, really powerful, and it really sets the intention for what's to come. In this particular video, we're going to be covering a few of the dynamics that come from not only the limitless model, which is what he developed throughout his time of learning and his way of communicating and his whole journey on how to become a better learner. He has the 3 M's, which is the limitless model, and it's this. So we're going to talk about the 3 M's: mindset, motivation, and methods. If you have the 3 M's, you become limitless. And that's what he's talking about here. And then we're going to dive into number 2, which is why this actually matters today, why this matters now. And it couldn't be a better timing, because now more than ever, we all need a way to find our own rhythm, our own flow, to really retain the information that is necessary to catapult us to the next level within us, right? So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? As I was mentioning, the limitless model, in the center, you have being limitless, okay? You have methods, you have motivation, which creates implementation. If you have methods and you have motivation, you can start implementing right away. If you have methods and you have mindset, you have ideation. You can create things. You have your mindset and you have your methods. You can really start constructing things. Ideation. If you have mindset and motivation, then you have inspiration, okay? Obviously, those are more softer skills, right? But when you're able to create and put all of these together, okay, your ideation, your implementation, and your inspiration, now that is when you become limitless. Okay, that is when you become limitless. And that's what we're here to do. Always find new ways of improving ourselves and getting to the next level within us, right? So he's mentioning that the limitless model is where you can actually learn to be, do, have, and share with absolutely no constraints. I wrote this book to prove to you, if you are not learning or living at your full potential, if there is a gap between your current reality and your desired reality, here's the reason. Here is your answers, okay? There's a limit that must be released and replaced in one of the 3 areas, okay? You can either have a limiting of your mindset, which you can entertain a low belief in yourself or your capabilities of what you deserve or what is possible. Or maybe it's your motivation. You can have a limit around that, where you can lack the drive, the purpose, or energy to take action. Or possibly it could be your methods, where you're taught and are acting on a process that is not effective to create the results that you desire. And if either one of those are not 100% or, connecting with one another and really creating with each other, then that is where that limitless potential is being blocked. This applies to an individual, a family, or an organization. We all have our own unique story of struggles and strengths, and whatever your situation happens to be, here's the best part: you're not alone. I'm going to help you become limitless in your own way. Within the 3-part framework, you're able to learn the limitless mindset, limitless motivation, limitless methods, and here it is broken down. Mindset is the what. Mindset is the what. Motivation is the why. Methods are the how, okay? When we're talking about mindset, the what, that is your deeply held beliefs, your attitudes, and the assumptions that we are creating about who we are, how the world works, and what we are capable of and deserve, and what is possible. That is the mindset, okay? Then we have the motivation, the why, the purpose one has for taking action, the energy that is required for someone to behave in a particular way. To behave in a particular way. That's motivation. Then you have your how, which is your method. It's a specific process for accomplishing something, especially an orderly, logical, or systematic way of instruction, your methods, how you do things. So one other note about the diagram on the previous page is that you'll see that where mindset crosses over with motivation, have the word inspiration. When you're inspired, okay, you don't know which methods to employ or where to channel your energy. When you're inspired, but you don't know which methods to employ or where to channel your energy, that is where motivation and your method intersect. You have implementation. In this case, your results are going to be limited to what you feel you deserve, what you feel you are capable of, and what you believe is possible because you lack the proper mindset. Where mindset and methods intersect, you have ideation. Your ambitions stay in your mind because you lack the energy to do anything about them. And where all three intersects, that is where your limitless state lives. You have the fourth, which is integration. When you can integrate all of those, that is the limitless state. And throughout this book, we will be doing exercises, studies, and mental tools, and the results of exciting work being done both on the frontier of cognitive science and performance, as well as ancient wisdom. So, for example, how ancient civilizations remember generations of knowledge before the external storages like the printing press. We're going to learn all about that in this book. And in part 2, what we're about to get into, that is where your limitless mindset comes in. We're going to be tapping into what you'll learn, what is possible when you eradicate limiting beliefs. Part 3 is all about limitless motivation. Part 4 is all about limiting methods. And at the end of the book, we're going to have a 10-day game plan to jumpstart the progress towards a limitless week and a limitless life. Sound good? He mentions here that when we finish this book, we'll have the ability to be limitless in any area important to us, whether it's academic, health, career, relationships, or even personal growth. And since I never truly got to study at the X-Men school, I created it for you online. You can go to the Quick Learning Academy where people from all ages in 195 nations train with Jim every single day. So let's get into it. This is part 2 of Limitless. We now accept the fact that learning is a lifelong process of keeping abreast of change. And the most pressing task is to teach people how to learn. This is why this matters now. I'm a firm believer that we all have incredible superpowers that are waiting to be awakened. I'm not talking about the ability to fly, create ironclad armor, or shoot lasers from your eyes, but real-life practical abilities like flying through books, ironclad memory, laser focus, boundless creativity, clear thinking, mindfulness, superior mental attitude, and more. We are all superheroes in one way or another. Just as every superhero has powers, so do they have arch nemesis. Enter the supervillain. Think the Joker to Batman, or Lex Luthor to Superman. The villains we face may not look the same as they do in the movies, but they're still the bad guys, the ones you, as the superhero, need to vanquish and hold at bay. Modern day supervillains get in our way and make life harder, keeping us from our potential. They hold us back and rob us from our productivity, prosperity, positivity, and peace of mind. And it is up to us to recognize and defeat them. If you've ever read a comic book or watched a superhero movie, you know that supervillains are often born of unlike places. Take Harvey Dent, also known as Two-Face, for example. He starts out with the greatest of intentions. He's a prosecutor helping to uphold the law and put the bad guys in jail, and he's an ally to Batman. But through an act of revenge, Dent's face is scarred, and he turns angry, bitter, vengeful. He becomes what he had spent his whole life fighting, a duplicitous criminal who gambles with his victims' futures. The good in him becomes twisted and used for sinister ends. In the same way, the four supervillains of learning started out innocent. They are being fed by some of the greatest advancements that humankind has ever made in the last 100 years. They were given rise by technology, and to be clear, technology is a vital part of progress and being limitless. It allows us to do everything from connecting to learning, making our lives that much more convenient. But it is possible that we consume digital technology at a rate that even our creators would find extreme. Much of the technology available to us today is so new that we don't even know the level at which we need to control our interaction with it. Through our educational platform, Quick Learning, we have students in 195 countries, and we have generated tens of millions of podcast downloads. Our community has expressed a growing concern about the over-reliance on technology, and they come to us to upgrade their brains and find relief from those four horsemen, which is digital deluge, digital distraction, digital dementia, and digital deduction. It's important to note that overload, distraction, forgetfulness, and default thinking have been around for ages. While technology doesn't have to cause these conditions, it has great potential to amplify them. The benefits of the digital age are plentiful. But let's take a look at how the advances in technology that help you can possibly also hinder you. This is what digital deluge is. Do you have too much process, but not enough time? Do you have too much to process, but not enough time? We're privileged to live in a world with so much unfettered access to information. In this age of connectivity, ignorance is a choice. Compared to the 15th century, we now consume as much data in a single day as an average person from the 1400s would have absorbed in their entire lifetime. Not so long ago, information moved glacially through word of mouth or a newspaper or even a posted bulletin in the town square. Now we have so much access to information that is taking a toll on our time and our quality of life. The average person consumes 3 times as much information as we did in the 1960s. A 2015 report indicated that respondents spent 8 hours a day consuming media. In an NPR interview, New York Times tech reporter Matt Ritchell said that after 20 years of glorifying technology as if it all were too good, I think science is beginning to embrace the idea that some technology is like Twinkies and some technology is like Brussels sprouts. And if we consume too much technologies, just like we consume too much food, it can have an ill effect. In a University of California, San Francisco study on the effect of downtime, researchers gave rats a new experience and measured their brain waves during and after the activity. Under most circumstances, a new experience will express new neural activity and new neurons in the brain. That is, if the rat is allowed to have downtime. With downtime, the neurons made their way from the gateway of memory to the rest of the brain, where the long-term memory is stored. The rats were able to record memories of their experiences, which is the basis for learning. Doesn't that make you wonder what happens if you don't have downtime? There's a growing body of evidence that suggests that if we've never let our mind wander or be bored for a moment, we pay the price. Poor memory, mental fog, fatigue. As far back as the 1990s, when digital deluge was a fraction of the concern it is now, research was beginning to show that there were real health risks involved with navigating through an old world. A Reuters study, ominously titled Dying for Information, showed that 2 out of 3 respondents associated information overload with attention with colleagues and loss of job satisfaction. 42% of them attributed to ill health and to stress. 61% said that they have to cancel social activities as a result of information overload, and 60% said that they are frequently too tired for leisure activities. The study goes on to add, faced with an onslaught of information and information channels, they have become unable to develop simple routines for managing information. What's more, we also have to contend with the fact that the half-life of information has decreased. The half-life of information is the amount of time that passes before the information is replaced by newer or more accurate information. So basically, you can study to your heart's content. The information that you process now will be outdated sooner than you think. Facts, and in quotation, facts, written in articles, books, and documentaries are based on strong evidence and accepted as truth, but they are completely reversed when a new study comes out. I don't need to tell you how completely inundated each of us is with digital details. Even when we try to go off the grid, digital information somehow finds us. Heck, while I'm writing this, I've shut down all my devices, but I still need to have access to the internet for research purposes, and a handful of random notifications and updates will still be popped into my computer. And yes, I know I can turn all of these off, but you get my point. Here's a quick start that you can implement today. Take a moment and schedule 30 minutes of white space in your calendar for this week. This is the time to be spent away from technology. Time dedicated to clear your mind, relax, and even be creative. Now let's talk about digital distraction. Before mobile devices, we would say BRB, be right back, all the time when we were online. We don't say it anymore. We no longer leave. We live here now. Because of our always on, ever connected devices, we're struggling to find connection when we're with friends and family, and we're struggling to stay focused at work. Most of us deal with some kind of work-life situation where we don't feel comfortable foregoing digital connection for large swaths of time every day. So we stay out of the grid out of fear that if we were unreachable, we would lose out. The trouble is we're wired to enjoy it. Each successive hit of dopamine we get from the likes we receive on social media or from the text messages we receive from loved ones or friends only reinforces our behavior. But those rewards are changing our brains. Instead of relaxing into the downtime that we might experience when waiting in line or waiting for a bus or even an appointment, we pull out our phones and train our distraction muscles. What happens when this is our constant way of being? When every loose moment is filled with shiny stimulus? Staying connected may make us feel more secure, but it doesn't make us happier. In one experiment, more than 300 adults and university students were asked to keep their phones on the table easily accessible, while others were asked to put them on silent and keep them in a counter on the table during a meal. Afterward, participants were asked to respond to a questionnaire that asked them about their feelings of connectedness, enjoyment, distraction, and boredom. The survey also asked them to detail the amount of time they spent on their phone during the meal. Those whose phones were accessible used them more often, and they described themselves as feeling more distracted. They also enjoyed the dinner less, and the diners who didn't have their phones, who didn't have access to their phones, mentioned that they enjoyed dinner more. Modern technology may be wonderful, but it can easily sidetrack and take away from the special moments that we have with friends and family in person. Just as few of us have learned how to learn, not many of us have to have processed and filter the massive amount of information we're constantly seeing. We just multitask to get all of it in, and this doesn't serve us well. Asking the brain to shift attention from one activity to another causes prefrontal cortex and striatum to burn up oxygen, glucose, the same fuel that we need to just stay on task. And that kind of rapid, continual shifting that we do with multitasking causes our brain to burn through the fuel so quickly that we feel exhausted and disoriented after even a short period of time. We literally depleted the nutrients in our brain that leads to compromises in both cognitive and physical performance. From app notifications to message alerts, it's not just adults who deal with this. With the availability of technology and social pressure to be online and active on social media, children and teenagers experience the constant distraction too. Here's another quick start. You can go to your notification settings on your phone and turn off all of the unnecessary distracting pings and dings. You can do this right now. And actually, I've done that, which is really, really nice, not having any notifications come in, and you just go to your phone for whatever it is that you need at that specific moment, versus having everything just pop up every single time, or like if you see or if you feel your phone ringing or vibrating, you feel the need to pick it up. You know, I personally hate that feeling. So I like to train myself constantly to try to avoid that. And now we're going into the third horseman, which is digital dementia. When is the last time that you were able to remember someone's phone number? I'm not dating myself here, but I'm part of the generation that when you wanted to call your friend down the block, you needed to know their number. Can you still remember some of your best friends' numbers from childhood? What about the number of the person that you talk to or text with every day? You no longer have to, because your mobile remembers it for you. This is not to say that anyone wants to or should memorize 200 phone numbers, but we've all but lost the ability to remember a new one, or a conversation we just had, the name of a new potential client, or maybe even something important that we need to do. Neuroscientist Manfred Spitzer uses the term digital dementia to describe how overuse of digital technology results in the breakdown of cognitive abilities. He urges and argues that short-term memory pathways will start to deteriorate from underuse if we overuse technology. It's the same with GPS. If you move to a new city, see how very quickly you will need a GPS and become reliant on it to get around. Then notice how long it takes you to map new roads in your mind, probably much longer than when you were younger. But not because your brain isn't working well. With tools like the GPS, we don't really give our minds a chance to work. We rely on technology to do the memorization for us. This reliance may be hurting our long-term memory. And because of that, the trend that is looking up information prevents the buildup of long-term memories. In a study that examined the memory habits of 6,000 adults in the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Belgium, and in the Netherlands and Luxembourg. Wimber and her team, which is Maria Wimber, they found that more than a third of respondents turned to their computer first to retrieve information. The UK came in the highest. More of the participants searched online first without even trying to come up with an answer themselves. Why is this a big deal? Well, because such as instant information can easily be and immediately forgotten. Our brains appears to strengthen a memory each time we recall it, and at the same time, forget irrelevant memories that are distracting us. Forcing yourself to recall information instead of relying on an outside source to supply it for you is a way of actually creating and strengthening a permanent memory. So when you contrast that with the reality that most of us have a habit of constantly looking up information, maybe even the same information, without even bothering to try to remember it, it seems like we're doing ourselves harm versus good. Is relying on technology always bad? Many researchers disagree. The argument goes that by outsourcing some menial tasks like memorizing phone numbers or doing basic math or getting distractions or directions to a restaurant where we visited before, we're saving brain space for something that actually matters to us. The research that says that our brain are more like a muscle rather than a hard drive that fills up. So that means that the more that you use it, the stronger it gets and the more that you can store. So the question is, are you making those choices consciously, or are you acting out of unconscious habits? Too often, we outsource our brains to our smart devices, and our smart devices are making us, well, a little bit stupid. Our brains are the ultimate adaptation machines, capable of seemingly endless levels of evolution, and yet we often forget to give it the exercise that it needs. And just as there is a physical price to always rely on technology of the elevator instead of taking the stairs, so is the price for lazy mental muscles. So use it or lose it. And here's the quick start for digital dementia, okay? If you want to just take a minute to exercise your memory, memorize your phone number or memorize the phone number of someone else that you want to communicate with regularly. Use that instead of saying, hey Siri, call so-and-so, or looking it up on your phone, right? Instead, just remember it and type it out and call. Try that next time. And now we're in the last one, digital deduction. In a digital first world where millennials obtain all of their information and all of their answers to problems at the click of a mouse or a swipe of a finger, the reliance of technology to solve every question confuses people's perception of their own knowledge and intelligence. And that reliance may be well led to overconfidence and poor decision making. The ubiquity of information about everything also means that there's a ubiquity of information about everything. If you want to know how to feel about a hot button issue, you can just go online and collate the opinions of others. If you want to know the implications of an event or a trend, a quick online search will provide endless amounts of analysis. The upshot is that deduction, the amalgam of critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity that is an essential skill for being limitless is being automated. There's a certain amount of value to this, of course. Before the internet, we were limited to our access to the opinions of others. In an ideal world, being able to get as many perspectives on a topic as possible would be enormously valuable in helping us to form our own opinions. Unfortunately, that's rarely how it plays out in the real world. Instead, we tend to identify a handful of sources with which we align and then give those sources extreme influence over our thinking and decision making. In the process, the muscles we use to think critically and the reason effectively and reason with effectively are atrophying. We're letting technology do the deduction for us. And if technology is forming our deductions, then we are also ceding much of our problem solving ability. So something so important and something we will discuss at length later in this book will be that exactly. Psychologist Jim Taylor defines thinking as the capacity to reflect, reason, and draw conclusions based on our experiences, knowledge, and insights. Is what makes us human and has enabled us to communicate, create, build, advance, and become civilized. He then goes on to caution that there is a growing body of research that technology can be both beneficial and harmful to different ways in which children think. What is the effect on learning if college students use laptops to access the internet during a classroom lecture? This was actually tested in a communication studies class where students were generally encouraged to use their laptops during lectures, and in order to explore lectures topics in a greater detail to the internet and in library databases. Half of the students were allowed to keep their laptops open, and while the other half were randomly assigned, had to close their laptops. Students in the closed laptop condition recalled significantly more material in a surprise quiz after class than did students in the open laptop condition. Because they were engaging their minds in the lecture rather than looking for what the internet already thought about the subject, they were much more responsive when it was time to reason for themselves. Greenfield analyzed another study that showed that college students who watched a news program without the crawl at the button of the screen remembered significantly more of what the anchors were discussing. Playwright Richard Foreman fears that this reliance on the internet to do much of our thinking is changing our very selves. He mentions that he comes from a Western world in which the ideal, which is Richard Foreman's ideal, was a complex, dense, and cathedral-like structure of the highly educated and articulate personality, a man or a woman who carried themselves a personally constructed and unique version of the entire heritage of the West. But now he's saying the replacement of complex inner density with a new kind of self evolving under pressure of information overload in the technology of the instantly available. That's who we're becoming now. He's mentioning, do you remember what it was like when you were approaching your teens and you first started formulating thoughts and opinions independent of your parents? My guess is that this experience was extremely liberating for you and that it might have been the first time in life when you truly felt like your own person. What had happened to you, of course, was that your critical faculties had become refined enough to allow you to regularly employ reason to navigate through life. Why, then, would you want to turn this liberating skill over to a device? Think about it. How do you feel when someone tries to impose their thinking of you? If a family member, friend, or even a colleague comes up to you and says, don't think about this, here's your opinion. You try to get away from that person as soon as possibly that you could. Yet, when you immediately reach for the internet to provide us with information, that's exactly what you're doing. Well, these four horsemen are the ones we need to contend with the most. There's another digital danger that is worthy of attention, and it's called digital depression, a result of the comparison culture that emerges when we let the highlight reels of social media feeds or others cause us to perceive ourselves less than. Now, I personally enjoy social media. I love staying connected with our community of students and podcast listeners and staying updated with the everyday lives of family and friends. And I appreciate it so much as not only a source of entertainment, but also education and empowerment. But I also recommend using it consciously, not mindlessly out of habit, and in a harmonious way, so it doesn't hijack your productivity and peace of mind. That's awesome. So he's mentioning, here's a quick start around that. Think about a decision that you need to make. Schedule some time to work on that decision without the use of any digital devices. Are you able to do that? This is how we keep those 4 horsemen away. Keep the villains away. In the hero's journey, the heroes need villains just as villains need heroes. The challenges from trials and rivals make us grow and become better. The power and the strength of the villain determines the necessary power and strength of the hero. If the villain was weak, there would be nothing to vanquish and no need for the hero to rise to greatness. In my podcast interview with Simon Sinek, author of The Infinite Game, Simon refers to our worthy rivals, those who help point out the personal weaknesses we need to address, that they are your opportunity lies. That is where your opportunity is. That is where you can really transform your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings into your unique self. As I mentioned, I love the light side of technology, how it can help us to communicate and connect and educate and empower us and make our lives easier. What we've just described are a few potential drawbacks of technology, which is an inherent part of all of the good that it brings into our lives. Like fire, technology has changed the course of human history. However, fire can cook your food or burn your house down. It's all about how you use it. Like any tool, technology itself isn't good or bad, but we must consciously control how it's used. And if we don't, then who becomes a tool? It's up to you to choose how you engage. Which of the 4 digital villains do you believe are currently most disrupting your performance, productivity, and peace of mind? Take a moment to write the name of the villain down. Conscious awareness is the first part to solving a problem. And I'll leave you with this quote. The human brain has 100 billion neurons, and each neuron is connected to 10,000 other neurons. Sitting on your shoulders is the most complicated object in the known universe. Powerful. It's so powerful. And now more than ever, we definitely need to take control of what it is that we're consuming, how it is that we're using things, because, we're able to get anything we want with a simple little search. We can find anything or anything. So being conscious of all that is key to manifesting exactly what you want out of life. And I'm so excited to actually share with you something that's really important. Just as we're talking about how technology can be a tool, it could also be something that increases someone's life. We are, as billionairettes here, every single quarter, we like to give, and we love to choose foundations or organizations that we believe in. And what we've decided to do this year for 2023 is actually create a GoFundMe page where we are actually helping 23 families receive 23 laptops this year. So what's really powerful about all this is that you can donate directly through GoFundMe, and we're going to be able to take those $5,000 in total and buy 23 laptops and give them to specific families that don't have the resources to get a laptop. And I'm using a laptop right now to record this. And this is actually one of the tools, the primary tools that I've personally used to advance myself into who I am today. If it wasn't for a laptop, I wouldn't be able to run a business online or access a video camera like this and record it on Zoom and then upload it to YouTube so you have access to it. So our mission here is to empower people all over the world with the tools through education for personal and financial freedom. So I encourage you to click the link in the description, go to the GoFundMe page and donate, whether it's $1, whether it's $5, whether it's $50, $500, or even $5,000. Do what you can. Share it with a friend, family member, colleague. It's the tool for freedom, and that's what we're calling it. This project is Empower 23, so it's going to be a very powerful way to make a statement, but it's also going to be a powerful way to help someone's life. And as we become more dependent on technology, now more than ever, people need access to the tools and resources, and a laptop provides that. Access to Wi-Fi, an outlet, and you're good to go. You can find jobs, you can connect with your family, you can access resources, you can learn, you can get material, and more than ever, it's important. So click the link below, consider subscribing to this channel, it really helps out. And without further ado, my name is Isabel, I'm one of the founders here at Billionaireette, and I look forward to seeing you more often on this channel. Talk to you soon.